Making Big Shifts, presented by Marketing Reboot, with your host, Josh Anderson.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Marketing Reboot, Making Big Shifts. I'm your host, Josh Anderson, where we talk to real entrepreneurs and authors making really big shifts in their lives and the real results that follow. Today, we are super excited to have Sam Caucci here. He is the author of Wasted Talent, How Greed, Exploitation, and the Promised Future of Work Has Failed the Frontline and a Plan to Fix It. Welcome to the podcast, Sam.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Well, I'm really excited to talk to you because obviously the podcast is about making big shifts, and this book is about making a massive shift in the way we do things in the work environment. So you want to just kind of dive in a little bit about the book and the background behind it and what that big shift's going to entail in the future?
Sure. So the book's called Wasted Talent, How Greed, Exploitation, and the Promise of the Future of Work Failed the Frontline and a Plan to Fix It. Short subhead there. But the book comes from a place. I've spent my career. I have a technology company. I've spent my career helping workers not just get onboarded faster, but put themselves in positions to be successful inside of organizations. So over the last decade, I've kind of had a front row seat for what companies are willing to invest in, what employees, what skills and talent employees have. And, the book was really, like I said, the hardest part of writing the book wasn't writing it. It was stopping it, because every day in work today, things are more challenging, more complex. You got AI, automation affecting work. You have the nature of wages with downward pressure on workers on the front line. Today in America, 2 in 3 workers don't have a college degree. They don't work in jobs that can work from home. And 1 in 2 of those workers are a $400 parking ticket away from poverty. And when I would work with organizations, we would hear this unskilled worker, or workers are lazy, or workers are retreating, or great resignation, or whatever the flavor of the month is for whatever we want to, call workers. And, I wrote the book because it pissed me off. And I really do feel that workers have skills, they have game, they have talent. And when organizations don't do everything they can to unlock it, they waste it. And that results in slow growth and everything that comes with it. Right. So, the big shift for us, to me, really isn't it's so crazy that we have to say this is the big shift, but it is. It's to see your people. Not just the ones in the corner office, not just the ones with the college degree, but the frontline worker that's making it all happen. And that shift would unlock tremendous opportunity and potential, for our communities.
Makes sense. Yeah, director of operations at previous companies, and onboarding was so vastly important, right? Because if you do not onboard correctly, and it sets a trajectory for the employee. So, what are some things that you've learned about the onboarding process? Let's just dive there, because you mentioned that earlier. How can we do that better, and how's it currently going?
Yeah, I think it is more challenging than ever to onboard a new employee and get them from 0 to 60. And the reason isn't a skill gap. The reason isn't that Gen Z likes to play on their phones. It's not TikTok's fault. I think it's that we have a generation of workers today. By the way, 55% of workers are Gen Z or millennial. So the majority of our workforce sits in that category. They have grown up with different experience sets than other groups. Yet the way that we are onboarding those groups is still stuck in yesterday. Yeah. And, printing manuals that nobody's going to read, creating training videos that, I don't know about you, but it's end of the year compliance module season. Totally. You know how many people are watching Hallmark movies sitting on their couch, just clicking through with the volume on mute? That's happening.
Oh yeah.
And, so I think that the challenge with onboarding is organizations need to be really good at reskilling workers to get them from hired to competency to contribution quickly. Right. And the problem is when we don't take that process serious, we, follow this model of, we're going to turn over so many workers. And again, when that happens, there's a ton of waste. The cost to recruit talent, interview it, onboard it, and then rehire for it is really tough. So I think the shift there needs to be to invest more resources to make sure your people can onboard quickly. Yeah. And that speed of onboarding is something we tell brands that they should even, HR should be performance incentivized based off that. You want to get them to care more about speed of onboarding? Treat them like a sales rep.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's an interesting take on it. That makes a lot of sense, right? Because you're going to do what you're incentivized for, of course, right? So, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. People spend so much time and resources on hiring, the recruiting process, right? Sitting through all those interviews, the panel interviews, the blah blah blah, and then you just say, "Here's your manual. Go do your job. Talk to your manager," right? And that just leaves people out in the wind, essentially. So, yeah.
Yeah, and
What?
the thing is, what do we hire for is an important question. And the conventional belief is that we hire for skills, and that's not. The data doesn't support that. We traditionally buy credentials. So companies will buy. Again, I'm going to look at it this way, and I say this in the book: we buy talent instead of building it, and we'd rather buy a candidate that looks like us, that went to the same schools as us, had the same upbringing as us. That bias exists. And if organizations want to be talent accelerating organizations, which, by the way, super critical in a world of AI over the next decade, as every job transforms. Like a job today may look totally different 5 years from now in the activities and functions. So you need to be really, really good at finding a candidate and not just buying what skills or credentials or what 2-year degree or 4-year degree they have, but looking at what they know and then being able to close the gap between where they are and where you need them to contribute. The ones that do that really well will win. Everybody else will have a lot of pain by playing the layoff game, rehiring, shifting to automation, and then probably not even using automation and AI tools correctly.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, sorry to interrupt the podcast really quick. If you're getting value from making big shifts, please subscribe and tap the bell so you don't miss the next conversation. All right, appreciate it. And now back to the podcast. Well, now part of your book obviously talks about greed and exploitation in terms of employee the interactions there. Can you dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, and this is, I say in the book, I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to criticize. I'm trying to challenge business owners and certain executives in the workplace today. But the reality is, we talk about the future of work, and I talk in the book about the reality of work. And I just think that if you're going to create a talent force for the future, we need to be real with ourselves about what is the current moment. So I explore what I call the 11 realities of work. Talk about wages, which, by the way, this isn't an opinion, it's a fact. Wage growth has not stayed in lockstep with productivity growth, by any measure.
Especially with AI on the scene too now, especially, right? So
we talk about mass incarceration. With 1% of the American population is behind a wall. So we talk about that part of our workforce that is coming back. We talk about homelessness. We talk about the effects of under-resourcing the training departments. And again, if the goal of, I say I'm a worker-centric capitalist, so this isn't a capitalism issue. However, if left to its own devices, capitalism will drive massive market efficiencies. And unless an organization is thoughtful about keeping the worker at the center of their operation, the reality of work is that worker is going to get exploited. And they're exploited by things like not getting the same employee benefits as others, not being able to tap into healthcare, living on a razor's edge. And I challenge in the book, if you are a restaurant trying to generate maximum revenue in an evening, do you really want a worker concerned about being evicted in the next 24 hours if they don't pay rent? Do you really want that worker behind the bar? So this is an argument of greed and exploitation is, if left to its own devices, has forced us to take advantage of workers when we should make them the point. And when we make them the point, companies grow, record profit. Everybody wins in that story. But again, I think that the way that work has been built, we've taken some wrong forks in the road over the last 2 or 3 decades.
I think that's a really good point you said there. And it's a catch-22, right? The more exploitation happens, the actually less productivity and efficiency you get because minds are elsewhere when they're at work, right? So that's a great point to bring out. Now, so you mentioned the 11 core principles?
Yep.
What are a few of those other ones?
Yeah, so the 11 realities of work explore, so I mentioned a few of them. Yep. Also government. Government has a role to play here. Your elected officials can either write the rules to protect workers and protect businesses, or they can write rules because they have a major donor who is pandering to them. So I talk about government's role in the process.
Mhm.
What about higher education? I make the point that education is failing the worker today because we're in some ways preparing the candidate for an economy that no longer exists.
Right.
And I'll just take example coding classes. I mean, I'm sure you've seen this, Josh. How many people were saying, oh, we should be coding, for the last 3, 4, 5, 10 years? I don't know about you, but there were countries across the globe that were doing coding classes K-12 30 years ago. So we're probably not going to win the race to being the best coders on the planet in this moment. But, education has been always kind of a step behind because of, challenges to get the right information. I also explore, I talk about human resources, and I say they're largely under-resourced and not attacking the function. But when HR is always the one that's kind of the police at times, and they're not the capability building group or positioned that way, then it's not realistic for an organization to expect HR to skill and train and challenge. So those are the realities of work as I explore them. And, I do provide action plans for what organizations can do in the book. And in the book, there's a scorecard for organizations to kind of grade themselves. Probably, I won't give all of them, but I think the two biggest ones for brands, one is invest in technology as infrastructure. If you are going to give it to your consumer, or you are going to invest in it for marketing excellence, you know this, right? Why wouldn't we give it to our workers too?
Yeah.
If everything has to be mobile first, well, why is our training still pen and paper? If everything we're doing is about meeting the customer where they are, why wouldn't we meet the employee where they are? So this argument of looking at technology as an accelerator and infrastructure is the first one. And then the second one is, if I was an organization listening and I was going to say, fix one thing, I'd fix this. It's transforming the middle manager in your organization. Because the best managers are leaders, but the best leaders are coaches. Managers get you to do it because they told you to. Leaders get you to do it because they show you how. Coaches get you to want to do it. And all of the data points to the number one driver of better employee engagement scores is not better pay, and it's not better hours, and it's not a foosball table in the break room.
Right.
It is having someone that cares about them personally. And if the middle manager in your organization, the person directly affecting your frontline worker, is not have a coaching model of development, then you are not going to unlock all of the skills a worker has. And I make the point that a worker comes to work and they have skills. They decide if you get them or not. Now, you can call them lazy for it, but that doesn't change the fact that we don't call customers lazy for not buying. Well, that customer didn't buy our stuff, they're lazy. No, we don't say
Marketing's
that.
fault.
We say, we have a worker, we're like, oh, they're lazy. Well, no, you failed to sell them on why they should give that to you.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So I love the checklist idea, and like a self-audit they can do when they get the book and go through that. And that's a good place to get started, right? I guess a few more questions I have is what are some of the biggest things, I guess, most common that you're seeing employers do that's turning employees off? Maybe it's the onboarding, and that we could rehash that again, but what are the biggest ones you see that are most common, I should say?
Yeah, I'd probably say there's two big ones. One is not showing employees what the next step in their career journey looks like.
Yep.
And there's a difference between a job and a career. And one of the main differences is that a career, there's visibility into what I need to do next. If I ran a restaurant, I'm sticking on restaurants here, I was hired as a host. What do I need to do to become a server? And then what do I need to do to become a bartender? And then what do I need to do to become a manager? And if it's just tribal knowledge, it isn't a clear pathway, then you're probably not going to get the most of that worker, and you're going to have a big turnover problem. So I think that's the first problem, is not just pen to paper. Like, your next workshop internally as an organization should be draw the pathways for every function you have. That's probably the first one. The second big challenge I see today is when organizations struggle, the first way they get out of it is they run to layoffs. And when you run to layoffs and you reduce your people, that's a business decision. We get it. People do it. By the way, in 2025, most layoffs in the American workforce since 2020 in a COVID year. So we are in a layoff zone right now. The problem, though, is when you lay off, you also lay off the people responsible for people. And that is a grave error, because if you are reducing your labor force, you obviously need less people doing more.
Yeah.
And when that happens, I'm a sports guy. You don't fire the strength coach. I mean, you guys need him to jump higher, run faster, perform better. You need strong roles in internally. So that means HR people or HR technology. You need skilling technology to get people where they need to go faster. But I think that's a big issue. I think, by the way, that was a big problem post-COVID, because companies let go of staff, they let go of HR, and then they struggled to find workers.
Oh, crap. Yeah, exactly.
But they had nobody in recruiting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And I think probably in marketing, you see the same thing when organizations do layoffs or they shift funds. If they don't know, if they don't take a thoughtful look at who's going to be managing that, and we're just reducing to reduce, there's going to be a pain and a cost in the future when you have to re-stand all that stuff up.
For sure. So it's going to get paid forward somehow.
Right.
Yeah. And that those are two amazing. And I've seen those time and time again, those you just brought up. I guess one of my last questions is, I understand people listening to this and they're going to say something along the lines of, well, the workers are just, generationally speaking, like Gen Z is way different, millennials is way different than the rest of the generations, right? How do they build systems that can keep all those happy? Because I remember when I was as an ops director, the younger people, they really wanted that job career progression ladder. They wanted to see that like on day one because they were working for that. While older generations, they just thought if they showed up and did a really good job, it would happen, right? So how do you make sure you're focusing on and paying attention to all those?
Yeah. I think the quick rapid fire answer is, why don't we ask them?
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
We could survey our people, and there's a right way and a wrong way. And you know this best, right, to how to survey and get the right information. But I think that the first thing is thoughtful surveying of your people in order to understand what they're saying. And without that survey, my quick answer is, and this crosses generations, 3 things people want out of work. They want autonomy, meaning they want the space to be able to make the right choices themselves to a degree. Second, they want to feel like they belong. So they want a sense of belonging. And then third, they want to feel like they're capable. So I call those the ABCs. Here at my company, One Huddle, we focus on talent development, and we call those the ABCs of people development. Are you showing them autonomy? Are you giving them the space to screw up?
Yeah.
Or are you micromanaging them to death, where the error is never their own because of it? So autonomy. Second is belonging. They need to feel connected to the community. And then third, when they do something well, do they feel proud of it? Are we just constantly beating down? And so capability, everybody wants to feel that they can contribute and they feel like they're doing it well.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. Well, Sam, tell us a little bit about where we can find the book and your company and how we can get a hold of you if someone wants to work with you.
Yeah, Wasted Talent. Check it out. I'd love to hear people's points of view. Like I said, it's Wasted Talent, How Greed, Exploitation, and the Promise of the Future of Work Failed the Frontline, and a plan to fix it. It's available wherever books are sold, Barnes & Noble, Amazon. And you can check me out at Sam, CAUCCI, samcaucci.com. And our company is called One Huddle. And Josh, we turn employee training into games. So about how do you make that onboarding experience better? Wouldn't you rather play it than sit through it?
Yeah, love it. That's cool. Very cool. Well, Sam, I appreciate you joining the podcast. It's been a really enlightening conversation.
Thanks for having me, Josh.
Yeah. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Thanks for listening to Marketing Reboot, Making Big Shifts. Please subscribe and like the podcast, and we'll talk to you next week. Hey, guys, thanks so much for listening to Making Big Shifts by Marketing Reboot. It would be a huge help to us if you subscribe to the channel and share this with somebody that you think needs it. Your support helps us continue to bring great guests on board and keep the conversation going. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Making Big Shifts. Like, share, and follow for more. Join us next time on Making Big Shifts, presented by Marketing Reboot.